You know, supply chain is really all about customer service. Hi, this is Rob O'Byrne from Logistics Bureau, and if you're wondering where I am this time, I'm actually in Cairns in Queensland, Australia, and I've actually been at the Next Generation Supply Chain, otherwise known as the NG Supply Chain. A great event. If you've never been to it, look at the link below and check it out. It's probably one of the best supply chain events around. I just ran a really interesting session this morning about customer service, and I thought I'd share that with you because it seemed to generate a lot of interest. And what I was talking about was what I call the 8 noble truths of customer service. And let me just run through those briefly, and I'll mention a couple of key points. And then what I'll do when I get the time is to add a link down below to an article about the topic with a lot more detail. But just check these out for the 8 noble truths. What I was telling people was that most companies don't actually know the service needs of most of their customers, but they assume they do. Does that ring true for you maybe? Most companies don't segment their customer base by that need. Very often companies have historical ways of segmenting their customers either by industry or product group, but very rarely actually by the customer service need. Not all customers want the same service. That's an issue I see time and time again with businesses, either over-servicing or under-servicing. You really need to get inside the heads of your customers and understand what they value. And very often it's not very high service levels. Sometimes it can be a bit lower. Number 4 was some customers are happy with what you might perceive as poor service. The example I used was actually Amazon. When I buy books online, I don't actually need the books straight away. I mean, maybe some people do, they go to a bookshop. But I buy books online in sort of dozens or so, 10 or 12 at a time. And I don't really mind if they take 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks to get there. So I think that's a good example of, a consistent service, a high quality service, but not necessarily a long service is okay. Then we talked about the fact that most companies don't have sufficient supply chain cost and performance visibility, and hence they underperform. And I talked about the perfect order, how to manage your business so that you can actually measure the probability of a perfect order, and I'll put a link to that below, because most companies actually just measure DIFOT, delivery in full on time, and that doesn't really give you the full picture. Then we talked about the fact that not all your customers are happy. You know that old adage that if you've got a really happy customer, they might tell someone. If you've got a very unhappy customer, they'll tell everyone. And where are your customers gathering to talk about your products and services? Very often now it's online. So you actually need to tap in and be part of that conversation and know what's going on. Number 7 was all companies have non-profitable customers and orders, and number 8 was all companies have non-profitable products and services. And this is where I talked a little bit about cost to serve, looking at the processes and functions within your business and really trying to establish the cost of not only servicing individual customers but with different types of products. And what you find, I've found time and time again with hundreds of companies, is that about 15% of the orders going out, distribution out to your customers, are probably not making any profit. So you need to understand some of the cost drivers in there, which may be revolving around particular service issues. Either customers have a very demanding service requirement, or products actually have a very demanding handling requirement, all of which can drive additional cost into your business. So those were the 8 noble truths of customer service. If it's a little bit windy here, I do apologise. We've been told that there's a cyclone on its way, so I'm going to pack up and get back into NG Supply Chain. A great environment. Again, there's a link below. Do go and check it out. I have no commercial association with them, don't worry. I just think it's a great event. And I'll post up an article soon with a bit more detail about those 8 noble truths. Talk to you soon.